Crimson flames surged across the sky like waves of fire, rolling out in layers. The destructive energy radiating from them twisted and destabilized the space within the cauldron. Lin Dong lifted his pale face, staring intently at the crimson blaze. This was his final resort. His previous attack had drained him, leaving no chance to strike again. If this couldn't take down Elder Evil Bone, the one in trouble would be him. Half-step death mystique stage. What a pain to deal with, Lin Dong muttered. If it weren't for the flame god ancient token, he would never have chosen to confront Elder Evil Bone head-on. At most, he would have evaded for the time being, waiting until he grew stronger to settle the score. I wonder if it's enough to finish him? His gaze remained fixed on the spreading sea of crimson flames, a faint sheen of light reflecting off his pale face, revealing his nervousness. It's not over yet. Just as Lin Dong whispered to himself, Yan's voice echoed in his mind. What? Lin Dong's expression changed immediately. The remnants of his primordial energy were quickly circulating through his body, ready to retreat from the heaven-burning cauldron at a moment's notice. If it came to that, abandoning the cauldron might be his only way out today. Though, he's not in great shape either, Yan continued. Not finishing him off is going to be a problem, Lin Dong muttered, biting his lip. A strong fighter like Elder Evil Bone needed to be completely eradicated. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble later. You've already pushed him this far. Quite the feat to kill him outright would be almost impossible for you now, Yan remarked calmly. Lin Dong pursed his lips, but stopped short of responding. Suddenly, his expression shifted again. The crimson flames rolling through the sky began to dissipate, and the terrifying energy waves gradually weakened. Watching the receding flames, Lin Dong clenched his fists, cold sweat forming on his palms. As the last remnants of the flames faded, his pupils shrank. From within the waning fire, a figure emerged. The figure was charred black, with its left hand and right foot missing. Blood gushed from the severed limbs like a fountain, and its entire body was covered with gruesome wounds, skin torn open in multiple places, a horrifying sight. What a grievous injury! Lin Dong stared, dumbfounded, at Elder Evil Bone's current state. The power of his previous strike was far more devastating than he had anticipated, managing to wound a half-step death mystique stage expert so gravely. He could sense Elder Evil Bone's faltering aura, a clear sign that the injuries were serious and possibly fatal. Arg! As Lin Dong stood frozen in shock, Elder Evil Bone suddenly threw his head back and let out a piercing shriek, filled with terror and pain. You little brat! How dare you wound me like this? His bloodshot eyes locked onto Lin Dong below, madness brimming in them. If not for the excruciating pain gnawing at his mind, he wouldn't have believed that someone at the minor completion of the life mystique stage could harm him to this extent. Lin Dong's lips curled into a grin, and murderous intent flickered in his eyes. He raised his head, sneering viciously. Old bastard, not only did I hurt you, I'll finish you today. Don't be reckless. Yan's urgent voice echoed in Lin Dong's mind. He's at his limit, but so are you. If he realizes your attack can't be used again, he'll fight to the death. Hearing this, Lin Dong's eyes flickered. Instead of retreating, he pounded his chest, spitting another mouthful of blood onto the flame god ancient token before him. You wretch! Elder Evil Bone's pupils contracted sharply, terror flooding his eyes. He knew that if Lin Dong unleashed that attack again, it would be his end. Mark my words, boy. Once I recover, I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. A desperate shriek tore from Elder Evil Bone's throat. Gritting his teeth, he detonated his left arm, releasing a surge of bloodlight that tore open the space within the cauldron. His body shot out like a fleeing beast, escaping in disgrace. Pfft. As Elder Evil Bone detonated his arm and fled, Lin Dong coughed up a mouthful of blood. The flame god ancient token dimmed and fell powerlessly from the air. That cowardly old bastard! Lin Dong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, chuckling mockingly. The blood he had spat earlier was nothing special, just ordinary blood. He had only meant to scare Elder Evil Bone, but to his surprise, The old ghost was so terrified that he blew off his own arm to escape. That was reckless, Yin commented. If he had seen through your bluff, the situation would have turned against you. I couldn't outlast him in my current state. The only way was to scare him off, Lin Dong replied, shaking his head. You should leave now. You're too weak to fight anymore. You need time to recover. Lin Dong nodded, stashing the flame god ancient token away. With a thought, he exited the heaven-burning cauldron, which he then absorbed back into his body. Ha, you old wretch, consider yourself lucky this time. But next time, once I finish forging the heaven-burning cauldron and scorching heaven gate, your life is mine. Lin Dong sneered coldly. With a swift movement, using the last of his strength, he darted in the opposite direction, disappearing quickly into the distance. As Lin Dong left, the sea around him rapidly returned to silence. No one would have guessed that such a shocking battle had just taken place here, nor would they have believed its equally astounding outcome. Martial Gathering Island. Gu Mengqi stood in the courtyard of the Gu clan, her beautiful eyes gazing anxiously in the direction where Lin Dong had departed. Her worry was impossible to conceal. Since Elder Evil Bone hasn't returned, Lin Dong should be fine, Gu Shuo said reassuringly from behind her. Gu Mengqi could only give a bitter smile at his words. Elder Evil Bone had planted a bone imprint in Lin Dong's body, ensuring he could not escape the hunt. Once Elder Evil Bone caught up with him, given the vast difference in their strength, the outcome was all too predictable. That fool. He refused to stay on Martial Gathering Island where it was safe, choosing instead to run around recklessly. He's just courting death. Gu Mengqi bit her lip, her anger barely contained. Gu Shuo sighed deeply, filled with regret. Such a promising young talent. Was he really about to be destroyed at the hands of Elder Evil Bone? If only this encounter had come 2 or 3 years later, Gu Shuo was confident Lin Dong would have stood a chance. But now, it was simply too early. Just as these thoughts filled Gu Shuo's mind, he suddenly felt a shift. His gaze snapped toward the distant sky, his voice turning grave. Elder Evil Bone has returned. At his words, Gu Mengqi's face went pale, her hands clenched tightly. Swish! From the distant sky, a sharp sound of wind breaking echoed, and a bloody light streaked toward them. Along with the blood light came a series of wretched, agonized wails, filling the air. The piercing cries immediately drew the attention of many strong individuals on Martial Gathering Island. All eyes turned toward the approaching blood light, confusion and shock evident on their faces. Whoosh! The blood light stopped above the island, revealing a figure drenched in blood, supported by nothing but a single remaining leg. The sight was horrifying, sending shivers through everyone who witnessed it. Is that? The entire island seemed to freeze. Every expression was locked in disbelief as they stared at the blood-soaked figure, nearly reduced to a human stump. Their faces were frozen in stunned silence. Elder Evil Bone? Both Gu Mengqi and Gu Shuo stared at the figure in the sky, stunned. It took a long while before they snapped out of it, exchanging a difficult glance, the shock in their eyes unmistakable. Elder Evil Bone had gone to hunt down Lin Dong. Could these injuries really have been caused by Lin Dong? Gu Shuo took a deep breath and rubbed his tingling face, his gaze turning toward the northwest. Now, he finally understood why Lin Dong had chosen to leave Martial Gathering Island willingly. It seemed they had greatly underestimated this young man all along. Out over the vast sea, the surface shimmered under the sunlight. Occasionally, giant birds soared across the sky, their sharp cries adding a hint of liveliness to the otherwise tranquil waters. On a small island formed by reefs, a lean, youthful figure slowly emerged from the depths. He looked up at the azure sky, his fists clenched tightly, feeling the renewed surge of power within him. A smile spread across his face. This figure was none other than Lin Dong, who had battled Elder Evil Bone 10 days ago. Though he had managed to severely injure the old man and force him to retreat, it had come at a heavy cost. Afterward, Lin Dong had found a secluded place to recover, spending 10 days healing and regaining his strength. During that time, he had also completely erased the bone imprint Elder Evil Bone had left in his body. That old ghost's injuries are severe. Even though he's at the half-step death mystique stage, it'll take him several months to recover. Lin Dong muttered to himself as he glanced toward Marshall Gathering Island in the distance. He didn't expect to have completely eliminated Elder Evil Bone. Even though the old man had been reduced to a near-crippled state, at such a high cultivation level, his body possessed a near-immortal resilience. Even lost limbs could eventually regrow. But with Elder Evil Bone sidelined for the next few months, Lin Dong no longer had to worry about being hunted. If he could find the volcanic flame essence stone and finish forging the scorching heaven gate during this time, he wouldn't have to fight so desperately the next time they met. Celestial Merchant Region. Lin Dong recalled the information he had gathered. The Celestial Merchant Region, located within the Chaos Demon Sea, was a particularly unique place. It sat at the intersection of several sea regions, a chaotic and dangerous zone teeming with power struggles. However, due to the region's thriving trade, it had become one of the largest hubs for rare treasures in the entire Chaos Demon Sea. The most powerful faction there was the Celestial Merchant Pavilion, a formidable force renowned for its information network and auctions. Despite the chaotic environment, their immense wealth and power had allowed them to hold their ground, fending off countless attempts to seize control. That auction could be worth checking out. The Celestial Merchant Pavilion is skilled at gathering information, and I might even be able to find news about Little Mink or Little Yin. Lin Dong pondered. He also needed to track down the mysterious sea map, which would likely be auctioned there. Above all, he couldn't abandon his search for a second ancestral talisman, a quest he had promised the Great Wilderness Monument he'd complete in 2 or 3 years. And then, there was his unfinished business in the Eastern Mystery Region. The memory of how he and his 2 brothers had been forced to flee like hunted dogs was still fresh in his mind. Lin Dong pressed his lips together, his dark eyes flashing with coldness. Some debts must always be repaid. It was only a matter of time. He believed that when he returned to the Eastern Mystery Region, those debts would finally be settled. Let's move. Suppressing the swirling thoughts in his mind, Lin Dong wasted no more time. His figure blurred into a beam of light, tearing through the sky, disappearing over the horizon in an instant. There was quite a distance between the Celestial Windsea region and the Celestial Merchant region. Even at Lin Dong's speed, it would take more than just a few days to reach his destination. But he wasn't in a rush. The Celestial Merchant auction was still a month away, and there was no point in arriving too early. Moreover, using his primordial energy to fly across the sea was good training for controlling his power. During the first few days, he had to stop every half day to rest, but by the 10th day, he had perfected his energy management, directing his primordial energy precisely where it was needed. As his control improved, his speed increased dramatically. Having just entered the minor completion of the life mystique stage, his energy reserves were far more abundant than before. The devouring ancestral talisman silently absorbed the world's energy, replenishing him constantly. Even during such long-distance travel, his energy levels remained full, ready for any potential dangers. During his journey, Lin Dong occasionally encountered merchant ships and gathered bits of information. But for the most part, he traveled alone. As time passed, the distance between him and the Celestial Merchant region steadily decreased. Whoosh! A streak of azure light cut through the sky with astonishing speed, the deep sound of sonic booms stirring the calm sea below. Within the light, Lin Dong's gaze was fixed on the distant horizon, the azure dragon wings on his back occasionally fluttering, propelling him forward like an arrow. He had been flying over the ocean for nearly 20 days now. Along the way, he had encountered numerous natural disasters and dangers, making the journey quite eventful. But judging by his current speed, he reckoned that he would reach the Celestial Merchant region in about a week. So far, the journey had been smooth. He had thankfully avoided the infamous calamities of the Chaos Demon Sea, which would have severely delayed his progress. Lin Dong, there seemed to be quite a few energy fluctuations in this area, came the calm voice of Yin in his mind. Oh, pirates? Lin Dong wasn't surprised. Pirates were common in the Chaos Demon Sea, and he had encountered a few already. Southwest. See for yourself, Yin replied. Lin Dong nodded and looked toward the southwest. There, He saw over 100 figures riding on the backs of blood-red sharks. As he got closer, he noticed that these people were extraordinarily muscular. Strangely, their bodies bore faint scales, and their eyes glowed a dark red. A glowing shark emblem also faintly appeared on their chests. Blood Demon Shark Clan of the Sea Demon Tribe? Lin Dong's eyes narrowed. He had learned a bit about the powers in the Chaos Demon Sea, and the strongest forces were neither human nor beast but the sea demons. The Sea Demon Tribe was vast and diverse, with many powerful clans, among which the Blood Demon Shark Clan was notorious for their savagery. Many human sects had been slaughtered after crossing paths with them. What are the Blood Demon Sharks doing here? Lin Dong slowed down, his brow furrowing as the group seemed to notice him. Several dark red eyes locked onto him immediately. The Blood Demon Shark Clan is on a mission here. Get lost, outsider. The sea rippled as a particularly large blood shark broke through the water. A man wielding a crimson trident, his expression dark and menacing, fixed his gaze on Lin Dong and shouted coldly. Great completion of the life mystique stage, Lin Dong murmured, noting the aura emanating from the man. This trident wielder was clearly a powerful figure, and behind him, about 10 other members of the Blood Demon Shark Clan were also at the life mystique stage. It was an impressive force. Lin Dong grew even more curious. Such a formidable group appearing in this area was unusual. But despite his curiosity, Lin Dong didn't linger. He glanced at the overbearing Blood Demon Sharks, then quickly changed direction and sped away. Commander Xia, he's just a human at the minor completion of the life mystique stage. Why waste words? We should just kill him. Complete the mission first. Don't cause any unnecessary trouble. The man called Commander Xia frowned and barked coldly. Spread out and search thoroughly. She's gravely injured by the Elder. We must capture her. If she escapes, the entire Blood Demon Shark Clan will be in big trouble. Yes. Hearing this, the figures brimming with killing intent responded in unison, their sharp whistles echoing as they dispersed, forming a massive net to scour the sea region. As dusk fell, a crescent moon hung in the sky, casting a cold light over the sea, making the surface shimmer like fish scales, exceptionally beautiful. On a small island in this sea region, a campfire crackled. Lin Dong sat quietly beside it, a faint aroma drifting from the grilled fish roasting over the flames. The ones we saw earlier must have been an elite squad from the Blood Demon Shark Clan. What a coincidence running into them here. I wonder what they're searching for. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes, recalling the encounter earlier. The Blood Demon Shark Clan had a bad reputation in the Chaos Demon Sea. Though their bloodthirsty nature instilled fear in many, they were equally despised. Many recent killings in the Chaos Demon Sea were tied to them. Forget it. Whatever they're looking for has nothing to do with me. Lin Dong shook his head. His priority was to reach the Celestial Merchant region as quickly as possible. The Blood Demon Shark Clan wasn't a group to be trifled with, and he had no desire to provoke them. As for their motives, Lin Dong had no interest. With that thought, he refocused his mind, reaching for the grilled fish, now perfectly seasoned, ready to eat. Just as he was about to take a bite, the sound of someone swallowing echoed from not far away. Who's there? Startled by the unexpected noise, Lin Dong looked up warily. To his surprise, he saw a young girl standing on a nearby tree branch. Dressed in a green cotton robe, her large, dark eyes were fixated on the grilled fish in his hand. The girl looked very young but was adorably cute, her features as delicate as a porcelain doll. 2 pigtails tied into little horns on her head made her appear especially innocent. Such a girl would make any woman want to scoop her up for a cuddle. However, Lin Dong had no such inclination. Instead, a hint of caution flashed in his eyes. This girl had appeared too suddenly. He hadn't sensed her approach at all, despite her being so close. In the silence of the woods, Lin Dong and the girl locked eyes. After a moment, her gaze shifted back to the grilled fish in his hand, and she visibly swallowed again. Seeing this, Lin Dong couldn't help but smile. His vigilance eased slightly, and he waved the grilled fish toward her. Want some? The girl nodded without hesitation. Her small frame leaped gracefully from the tree, landing beside the campfire. She stared at Lin Dong with eager eyes. Suppressing a chuckle, Lin Dong handed her the fish. If you're not afraid it's poisoned, it's all yours. I'm not afraid of poison. The girl's voice was clear and melodious, like jade beads falling onto a silver plate. Though youthful, Lin Dong imagined it would become quite enchanting as she grew older. Without further ado, she grabbed the grilled fish and started devouring it, showing no concern whatsoever. Lin Dong smiled again, picking up another fish from his supplies. His gaze casually swept over the girl, and then his eyes narrowed slightly. Her arms were covered in noticeable wounds, some still crusted with blood. "You're hurt?" Lin Dong asked nonchalantly as he set the fish over the fire. "Yeah, some annoying people did it," the girl replied, nodding. Lin Dong responded with an "oh," but didn't press further. A short while later, he handed her another grilled fish, which she eagerly devoured once again. This girl had quite the appetite. Lin Dong continued handing her fish, and only after she had consumed more than 20 large ones did she seem satisfied. She patted her small belly and flashed him a sweet smile. "Thank you, big brother." Her cheeks still glistened with grease, but her smile was so sweet it could melt hearts. Lin Dong chuckled inwardly, thinking that any other person would have succumbed to her charms by now. "What's your name?" Lin Dong asked, wiping his hands. "Mu Lingshan." The girl tugged at her pigtails and looked at him with bright eyes. "What about you, big brother?" "Lin Dong," he replied with a smile. "What a plain name," Mu Lingshan giggled, tilting her head as she gazed at him. "Actually, it wasn't the grilled fish that drew me here. When I saw you, I just couldn't help but follow." "You followed me? Since when?" Lin Dong asked in surprise. "Since earlier, when you ran into those people. I've been following you ever since," Mu Lingshan replied. Lin Dong's eyes sharpened. He had been followed for an entire day without noticing? Who exactly was this girl? "Why are you following me?" Lin Dong frowned slightly. "I don't know." Mu Lingshan's response made Lin Dong's mouth twitch. She shook her head, causing her pigtails to sway. "I just felt like following you. Somehow, I just know you wouldn't hurt me." Lin Dong's brow furrowed even deeper. This whole situation was becoming more and more strange. "Big brother, I'm hurt. I need to rest first." Mu Lingshan, who had been sitting quietly beside Lin Dong, suddenly spoke with a playful smile, not caring what was on his mind. Then, under his slightly speechless gaze, she curled up like a small cat on a nearby rock and fell asleep. The campfire crackled in the forest, casting flickering light on Lin Dong's face, which showed a trace of indecision. He glanced at the sleeping Mu Lingshan. This mysterious little girl had let her guard down and fallen asleep right under his nose? As Lin Dong's gaze shifted, he suddenly noticed a deep blue light emitting from Mu Lingshan's body. The light formed a protective barrier around her, and astonishingly, the terrifying wounds on her slender arms began to heal at a visible speed. "What is this?" Lin Dong stared at the scene in shock. From the protective glow, he could sense an extremely peculiar energy. "The Immortal Heaven Evolution Technique?" Yan's surprised voice rang out at this moment. "Immortal Heaven Evolution Technique? What's that?" Lin Dong asked in confusion. Could this little girl be from the Immortal Sacred Whale Clan? "She's actually using their unique technique?" Yin murmured. "Immortal Sacred Whale Clan?" Upon hearing this, Lin Dong's pupils shrank slightly. Though his understanding of the Sea Demon Clan was limited, he knew that the Immortal Sacred Whale Clan was one of the most fearsome in the sea. And this little girl was a part of them? But something's off. Her constitution doesn't seem like a pure, immortal sacred whale. So why does she know the Immortal Heaven Evolution Technique? Even I can't fully understand her body. Yan's voice carried a hint of doubt, which made Lin Dong click his tongue in astonishment. Who on earth was this Mu Lingshan, that even Yin couldn't figure her out? Why did she say she couldn't help but be drawn to me? Could she be lying? Lin Dong asked. Doesn't seem like it. The little girl has a pure heart, so her words should be genuine. As for why she's drawn to you, maybe there's something about you that's attracting her, Yin mused. Strange. Lin Dong frowned, looking at the defenseless, sleeping Mu Lingshan, before shaking his head helplessly. No matter what, once the sun rises, he'd leave alone. This whole situation was too uncertain, and he wasn't eager to get involved. With that thought in mind, Lin Dong gradually closed his eyes and entered a meditative state. The night passed peacefully. When dawn broke, Mu Lingshan finally opened her bright eyes, which sparkled with a renewed liveliness. Lin Dong also opened his eyes, glanced at her, and smiled. Had a good sleep? Yep. Mu Lingshan nodded with a playful grin. She looked at her now-healed wounds, pouted slightly, and then waved at Lin Dong. Big brother, thanks for the grilled fish. I'll be leaving now. With those words, her petite figure leaped onto a tall tree. She hesitated for a moment, tugged at her pigtails, and said, Big brother, don't go in the direction I'm heading. Huh. Lin Dong was taken aback, but before he could ask, Mu Lingshan let out a crisp laugh. Her small figure transformed into a streak of light and disappeared from the small island in a flash. Lin Dong stared in the direction she had vanished and eventually let out a wry smile. What on earth was all this about? In the end, Lin Dong didn't head in the opposite direction from where Mu Lingshan had gone. However, he also didn't follow the same path. He simply continued on the route marked on the sea chart toward the Celestial Merchant region. He wasn't deliberately avoiding trouble, nor was he seeking it out. So, after flying over the sea for about an hour, he sensed a violent surge of energy coming from far off to his left, and his face took on a rather helpless expression. Those surges were filled with killing intent. Clearly, those involved in the fight were the Blood Demon Shark clan, whom he'd encountered the previous day. And among them, there was a somewhat familiar presence mixed in. That was the factor behind Lin Dong's expression. Hovering midair, Lin Dong gazed with a complicated look in the direction of the distant sea, where massive waves crashed violently, sending thunderous sounds into the sky. It seemed there was quite a fierce battle going on. Should we go take a look? I'm pretty curious about that little girl, Yan's voice echoed in Lin Dong's mind. He knew that Yan's curiosity stemmed from Mu Lingshan's unique constitution, which even he couldn't decipher. You already said she's not simple. While the Blood Demon Shark clan is tough to deal with, I reckon she can handle herself. Lin Dong pondered for a moment before shaking his head. The Blood Demon Shark clan was no joke, and provoking them was worse than dealing with Elder Evilbone. He had no desire to get tangled up in such trouble, especially since he had only met Mu Lingshan once. Boom. Just as Lin Dong finished speaking, the distant sea erupted with even more violent energy. Towering waves, over 100 feet high, shot into the sky and came crashing down with a deafening roar. Lin Dong watched the scene, pursed his lips, and eventually, a trace of helplessness crossed his eyes. Fine, let's go take a look. If necessary, I'll lend her a hand. Lin Dong wasn't sure why he ultimately decided to help. Perhaps it was because he didn't want to see such a cute little girl die at the hands of the Blood Demon Shark clan. Lin Dong sensed something strange. Though it felt inexplicable, he could definitely tell that something was there, and the source of this sensation seemed to come from within his body. Could it be from the devouring ancestral talisman? His eyes flickered with uncertainty. The feeling was so faint that even he couldn't be sure if it was real. But if it was true, could it mean that Mu Lingshan had some connection to the devouring ancestral talisman inside him? Shaking off the confusion clouding his mind, Lin Dong surrounded his body with primordial energy, then with a splash, he dove into the sea like a fish, swiftly heading toward the area where the violent energy fluctuations were coming from. Above a vast, empty stretch of sea, over 100 blood demon sharks had gathered, forming a tight circle. Standing atop the bloodthirsty sharks were members of the Blood Demon Shark clan, their muscular forms radiating menace. All of them were glaring fiercely at the center of the circle, where a small girl in a green dress, her hair tied in 2 pigtails, stood on the water's surface. Her big, bright eyes were filled with fury as she stared at the surrounding enemies. Heh, little princess of the immortal sacred whale clan, I suggest you come with me quietly. You should know that we don't show any mercy, said the leader of the group, a shirtless, savage-looking man known as Commander Xia. He stood on top of an unusually large blood shark, his strength at the great completion of the life mystique stage. With a smile, he eyed the surrounded Mu Lingshan. You bastards! You dare attack me knowing who I am? Mu Lingshan's voice was full of anger, but her words lacked any real intimidation. Our mission is extremely secret, and no one will know what happens here. Besides, you snuck out on your own. In the chaos of the Chaos Demon Sea, if something unfortunate happens to you, no one would suspect the Blood Demon Shark Clan. Commander Xia's grin widened, his sharp teeth gleaming ominously in the sunlight. You think you can capture me? Mu Lingshan's eyes darted around, searching for a way out of the encirclement. Heh, I know you're a rare prodigy, one in a millennium, from the immortal Sacred Whale Clan, and you've even mastered the immortal heaven evolution technique at such a young age. That's unheard of, even among your clan. But right now, you're still just a child. Plus, our elder has sealed your powers. How much fight do you think you have left? Commander Xia chuckled coldly. Try me. Suddenly, Mu Lingshan dashed forward, her small hands glowing with blue light. She slammed her palm into the sea. Whale pulse wave. Boom. Blue light erupted from her hands, sending the sea into a wild frenzy. Massive waves, 100 feet high, surged around her, the blue light within them emitting a powerful, awe-inspiring energy. Crash. The waves, imbued with a special force, swept outwards, crashing into the surrounding enemies. Some of the Blood Demon Shark Clan warriors, caught off guard, were sent flying, along with their sharks. Don't let her escape. You'll all answer to me if she does. Commander Xia's eyes flashed with a murderous glint as he punched the oncoming waves, tearing them apart with brute force. His sharp gaze swept over his men as he barked orders. Yes, sir. In response to his command, the Blood Demon Shark Clan warriors charged forward on their sharks, their tridents gleaming as they transformed into streaks of light, aimed at the petite figure in the center. 10,000 whale palm. Mu Lingshan stepped on the rising waves, her small body twisting gracefully through the air. With a shout, she unleashed a palm strike, causing a massive burst of blue light. The light condensed into a colossal whale, hundreds of feet long, which crashed into the incoming warriors, sending both men and sharks flying in all directions. Seeing an opening, Mu Lingshan immediately darted toward freedom. However, just as she was about to escape, Commander Xia's towering form appeared before her. His attack, filled with icy, lethal intent, aimed straight for her throat. Clearly, he wasn't holding back. Get out of my way. Frustration and anger flashed in Mu Lingshan's large, dark eyes as she faced yet another obstacle. In the next moment, a black, door-like object materialized in her hands, almost entirely covering her small frame. The object was thick and pitch black, covered in mysterious and intricate patterns. As it appeared, an unusual energy ripple spread out, causing the space around it to distort. The life and death coffin lid? Commander Xia's pupils shrank in shock as he recognized the object. He couldn't help but gasp. You even stole the sacred artifact of the immortal Sacred Whale Clan? None of your damn business. Without hesitation, Mu Lingshan hurled the black lid straight at Commander Xia. As the coffin lid swung forward, a stream of black energy surged out, carrying a deathly aura that only those at the Death Mystique stage could possess. However, just as the black energy was about to strike, Mu Lingshan's body suddenly stiffened. A burst of blood-red light erupted from her chest, taking the form of a faint, blood-colored shark. Under the impact of the red light, the blue glow surrounding her body faltered, and she stumbled. Heh, even though you have the life and death coffin lid, you've been sealed. With your current strength, trying to use it is just asking for trouble. When Commander Xia saw this, a sinister grin appeared on his face. He swiftly struck out with his palm, and the fierce gust of wind, as quick as lightning, hit Mu Lingshan, whose expression had drastically changed. Humph! The impact of the force exploded on Mu Lingshan's body, sending her flying backward. A muffled groan escaped her lips, and her face turned slightly pale. You filthy sharks deserve to be wiped out. Mu Lingshan cursed through gritted teeth, clearly having endured much suffering at the hands of the Blood Demon Shark Clan. Haha, an unexpected prize indeed. Although what you hold is only the life and death coffin lid, it's still an incredibly powerful pure primordial treasure. But from now on, it belongs to my blood demon shark clan. Commander Xia burst into maniacal laughter as his figure shot forward. The trident in his hand surged with blood-red light, tearing through the air as it viciously stabbed toward Mu Lingshan, whose aura was now unsteady. Mu Lingshan's face grew paler as she watched the blood-red light rapidly approaching. Boom. But just as Mu Lingshan was about to forcibly activate the life and death coffin lid in her hand, the sea beneath her suddenly erupted. A towering column of water shot up, and a crimson light streaked out, transforming into a massive cauldron. The cauldron opened its mouth wide and swallowed Mu Lingshan whole. Clang! As the crimson giant cauldron consumed Mu Lingshan, Commander Xia's blood-red trident collided with it. The clash rang out with a metallic sound, and the violent shockwaves sent towering waves surging into the sky. Who dares? The sudden turn of events caused Commander Xia's expression to change. He shouted angrily. Whoosh! Yet no one answered his cry. The crimson cauldron, having swallowed Mu Lingshan, turned into a streak of red light and shot off toward the distant horizon, carried by the force of the impact. Chase them down. Commander Xia's eyes twisted with rage as he bellowed furiously, leading the charge in pursuit. Behind him, over 100 blood demon sharks followed madly in chase.